What's up, people? Welcome to my new series in which I'll be breaking down the correct, or at least in my opinion, Zeta order for every single faction in the game. I'm making this in conjunction with gamingfans.com, who reached out to me to refresh that part of their website, and I figured we'd do this in video form as well in written form on their website. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on the 501st faction because that's kind of the big thing at the moment. A lot of people aren't too sure which order to do these Zetas in, and there are 10 of them, so you really don't want to get this wrong. That's a lot of resources. So let's get on with this video, guys. Let's do this. Right, let's get straight into those high priority Zetas, the ones that are absolutely essential for this team to work correctly. Look no further than Hero with No Fear on General Skywalker and Tactical Awareness on 5s. Both of these Zetas are absolutely essential to the team, and without them, the team is going to be incredibly easy to beat. You'll be able to kill them in whatever order you felt like, and top off, Anakin's really not going to be any sort of threat to you. Anakin's Hero with No Fear is going to give him 100% counter chance, which is really handy for a character as hard hitting as him. And furthermore, it also gives him an extra 50% crit chance if his whole team are 501st members, which they really should be. And that is a game changer right there. This will essentially guarantee 100% crit chance all the time. His base is something like 43%. On top of that, 50%, and obviously the crit chance, crit damage sets. He's never going to miss a crit hit. He's always going to do this. I think about the only character that might dodge one or two would be a Relic 7 Bastila Fallen, because she gains crit avoidance. But other than that, he's going to crit all the time, which is why this is the most used mod set for that character as well. Tactical Awareness on 5s is the Zeta that's actually going to prolong your team's life. The way this one works is if the AI or an enemy kills one of your other 501st clone members before 5s, and a lot of the time people will be a little bit intimidated if they don't know what they're doing, they try and take care of Echo because he attacks so much, or Rex because he will one-shot you. And if they make this huge mistake, what will happen is 5s will sacrifice himself and in turn spread all of his max health, protection, offense, and speed to Rex, ARC Trooper, and Echo, and it's going to make them even more difficult to deal with. So it forces a user player to actually attack 5s first and get rid of him. And 5s will have the most health and protection and be the more difficult character to kill first because he also counters. So you really do want this one. Where the Zeta really shines is against the AI, because the AI is stupid. What the AI often does is try to kill Echo first because he's the weaker of the team. And as a result, what happens is Echo doesn't die, 5 sacrifices himself, and Echo gains all of that offense, speed, health, and protection, and just becomes a complete killing machine. So if you're looking to run 501st, make sure these are your first two Zetas. They're the first two that I did as well, and I'm pretty sure most people that know what they're doing have prioritized these two. Okay, now we're going to get into the mid block, and there are some seriously good Zetas here, starting with Captain of the 501st for Rex. This bad boy is going to reduce the cooldowns on 501st clone troopers every single time they take a turn. Obviously, this is really valuable, so you can get to Rex's super shot, annihilate, whatever you want to call it, a lot quicker, and you can also get more access out of Echo's AoE attack. This is an excellent Zeta that I wish that I had gotten a little bit sooner. It's very high on my list because I didn't have it. It's one of the later ones that I got. And since I've had access to it and I've seen the effect of it, I really do wish I'd got it sooner. Up next is ARC Arsenal for ARC Trooper. What this one will do is allow the turret to attack every single time the ARC Trooper attacks out of turn. And more attacks and more damage are really going to become handy, especially when you're facing those tough multiple relic teams. General Skywalker returns to the list next with the Chosen One. This is actually a very good Zeta. It doesn't take effect right at the start of the battles, but it really comes into play later on. What this one will do is reduce the max health by 20%, stacking on your target enemy every single time Anakin takes a turn once the enemy has no longer got any protection left. One obvious area this comes in really handy is against Malak, because he doesn't have protection to begin with. He turns it into health. So this is a really useful Zeta, especially when you're facing those upper arena teams. General Skywalker is on this list for a second time in the mid bracket because 1, he has 4 Zetas, and 2, because General the 501st is a pretty decent Zeta. I wouldn't say it was one of the best. I wouldn't hurry for it. I flip-flopped on this one. It was in the low priority a couple of times and then jumped back into the mid. and it doesn't really come into play against the Malik teams. What it does is grant an additional 2% offense, stacking to 501st allies every single time the enemy gains a buff. Now obviously the Malik teams don't really gain buffs outside of the occasional taunt here and there, but where it does come into play is rounding out the team's use against other squads such as the Jedi. Teams like the Jedi with Jedi Revan, they're absolutely smothered in buffs, so very quickly you'll see your team ramp up in damage and take care of them incredibly easily. It's also going to come in pretty handy if you're going to be facing those Padme teams, despite the fact Padme is one of the better counters to Anakin. Having this will help you out a little. And the last mid-tier Zeta for this team is actually Ahsoka Tano's Daring Padawan. Now, first off, let me say this is an amazing Zeta. It is really good, but she's not really the optimal character for this team. She's usually just a placeholder for ARC Trooper. However, if you don't have ARC Trooper yet, this one will increase in value. What this one does is any single time a Galactic Republic ally on your team uses a special attack, Ahsoka will assist. And top off, she's going to do huge damage because she has a very high base crit chance, and if you've modded her decently, she's going to crit essentially every single time like mine does, which is pretty crazy in terms of damage when she's about Relic 5+. For the 501st team in particular, this isn't a absolute top end Zeta because like I said, ARC Trooper is usually the character you have in this spot. But overall, this is just a really valuable Zeta because this can actually come into play in pretty much any single team that she's going to get used in, because if you're not going to use her in 501st, you're going to be using her under Padme, or in territory battles, you might run her under General Kenobi. So regardless, a great Zeta, and I just can't put it above mid-tier purely because ARC Trooper should really be the one you're using. And lastly, we're onto the low priority Zetas, and while there are some decent Zetas here, I've done some real extensive testing on this team, and I just found that these ones didn't really make a dramatic difference to the end result. They're not necessarily bad Zetas, they're just not as important as the previous. First off is Domino Squad for 5s. It's a pretty simple Zeta in fact. 5s is going to gain 15% turn meter anytime his Clone Trooper or 501st allies get hit. This is actually a pretty cool Zeta to have. If you play 5s correctly, a lot of people actually still taunt with 5s when you're under General Skywalker, and as a result, 5s is the one taking the shots. You're not getting anything from this Zeta. And secondly, the AI will also pretty much always taunt as well, so again, you're getting pretty much nothing from this Zeta. If we were able to use 5 special without actually taunting, this would be a considerably better Zeta in my opinion. It feels like it's more suited to Shaak Ti lead than it is General Skywalker. Personally, a lot of the time when I'm using 501st against like Sith Empire for example, I won't actually taunt with 5s, I will just spam the basic. This will give Echo a little bit more defense, it'll also give 5s some more offense. This nearly always results in the AI targeting Echo, they'll kill Echo first, 5s are sacrificed, Echo becomes super powerful, Echo kills everybody. While the enemy will often clear the taunt, it just doesn't really offer as much value as you think it would. As I said, I've done a lot of testing, and when I didn't have it and when I had it, really wasn't any difference. The battle still ended in pretty much the same time, but then it does depend how you play. If you play it like me and you don't really taunt at all, then you will get some decent use out of this because your other allies are going to get hit all the time and not just with AoE attacks. But if you prefer to taunt with 5s and just rely on an AoE killing one of the other clones to trigger the sacrifice, then you're probably not going to get as much use out of this one. So good Zeta, just not really badly needed compared to some of the others. Next up, it's Domino Squad again, but this time it's on Echo. And on paper, again, this is one of those Zetas that sounds fantastic. Anytime the enemy dodges your attack, you're going to do 20% max health damage to them from Echo. The trouble is, there just isn't a lot of foresight or dodge in those top arena teams these days. You're generally facing mirror matches or Sith Empire. And as a result, there's really just not a lot around, you're not going to get a whole lot of dodges, and to top it off, there are a few 501st attacks which can't even be evaded anyhow. So while this does sound pretty cool, it's just not essential. I'm regularly beating Relic 7 Maliks, I still don't even have this Zeta. I do still intend to get this Zeta at some stage, but my team are Relic 4, Relic 5, I don't really have any difficulty whatsoever beating these Relic 7 teams, so I don't think it's something that I badly need. Therefore, I can't rate it any higher than the low priority bracket. And last up on the list is General Skywalker with Furious Slash. I'll admit when I first read this, I wasn't really 100% sure what kind of effect this was going to have on the battle. I did rush out and do this one early. I didn't rush out and do this on my test account. So I've tried them both ways, and in all honesty, it probably really wasn't worth rushing and doing. Using this Zeta is going to allow you to do telekinesis after your initial Furious Slash attack. But the thing is, it really doesn't make a great deal of difference. You're still going to double attack without it, and if you do have it, all you're going to do is be guaranteed a crit if the enemy is armor shredded. Well, you're already getting 20% crit chance from Echo. You're already getting like 50% crit chance from one of Anakin's other Zetas. His base is like 45 or something, and when you're actually having modded with crit sets, it's impossible not to crit anyway. The other benefit you'll get is you will increase cooldowns on the enemy if they're dazed. However, they're not going to be dazed when you're actually going to need them to be dazed, which is the initial attack. Because what you want to do is increase those cooldowns right at the start of the battle before Darth Revan and such go. However, you're going to have to use your dazed move first in order to do this, therefore you aren't able to actually use telekinesis right off the bat. So it just doesn't seem to have a great deal of use right away. Skywalker is the only one that actually inflicts daze on his team, therefore you're not going to be able to set it up in a way that someone else can inflict it before he does this move against those meta teams. So once again, like the others in this bracket, sounds good on paper, really isn't needed. I've had no difficulty beating the teams without it on my test account, even though my test account is worse than my main. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching the first in the Zeta Priority series that I'll be doing with gamingfans.com. Highly recommend you go over to their website and check it out. It's absolutely fantastic resource, and I believe it's actually the best resource in the entire community for when it comes to modding in particular. Feel free to leave a comment below with the order that you've Zetaed them in. Anything that you found to be useful for the rest of the community, please like and subscribe to the channel, and until next time, we outta here!